Physician-Assisted Suicide by Max Gibson. First off, what is physician-assisted suicide? Physician-assisted suicide is when a person gets his or her doctor to legally end their life. This may be possible when you are ill or disabled. My argument. As these posters show, physician-assisted suicide is a divisive topic. Some people believe that morally getting doctors to end a life makes the doctor a killer. Others believe if someone is in pain and they are not able to end their own life, it is morally worse to keep them alive while they are suffering. So my thesis is that the Canadian laws regarding assisted suicide are fair. This is because physician-assisted suicide is legal, whereas assisted suicide is not. A person should have a professional who is medically licensed to assist end their life rather than a friend or a family member. Some background info. In 1972, the Canadian government repealed the Criminal Code provision prohibiting suicide. 241B of the Criminal Code provided that everyone who aids or abets a person in committing suicide commits an indictable offense. Section 14 stated that no person may consent to death being inflicted upon them. This has changed since 2015. So the Carter v. Canada. Carter v. Canada is a landmark Supreme Court of Canada decision where the prohibition of assisted suicide was challenged as contrary to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. This was led by several parties, including the family of Kay Carter, a woman suffering from degenerative spinal stenosis, and Gloria Taylor, a woman suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, otherwise known as ALS. In an unanimous decision on February 6, 2015, the court struck down the provision of the Criminal Code, giving Canadian adults who are mentally competent and suffering intolerably and enduringly the right to a doctor's help in aiding them dying. Video 1.
For interpretation, however. For example, a patient's condition must be, among other things, severe and incurable, but that's not the same as terminal. For example, what if a patient has severe arthritis? Would they be eligible? Or what if they're disabled or mentally ill?
Remember, Chappray suffers from MS, a debilitating but not life-ending disease.
You're not in the end stage of a terminal illness.
It's an interminable illness.
Interminable.
Interminable. How do you weigh that? How do you measure that unless you're sitting in my wheelchair?
Well, it seems clear from what the Supreme Court has said that you need not be terminally ill to qualify.
Dr. Will Johnston, an outspoken opponent of physician-assisted death, says the court's liberal language that the patient may suffer from an illness, disease, or disability, and that suffering is only defined as intolerable to the individual, leaves the door wide open for abuse.
You do not even need to be physically ill, because they specifically stated that psychological suffering would qualify as well.
So what the court said was that...
So basically the idea behind this video is that not just anybody can be assisted in their death, they must be terminally ill or have a disability that greatly impacts their living. In the first clip, they talk about the states you must be in order to apply for assisted death. And then we see somebody who is trying to apply for said assisted death. The second person, the second man talking, was talking about the issues surrounding the wording of the law. The law itself. The law states that doctors may assist in someone's death if justifiable and if it is wanted from the patients. Doctors may only perform this if a patient is terminally ill and in pain, or if a disability impacts everyday life, such as multiple sclerosis. With respect to charges, if you get a friend to help you, whether it be physically assist you in your death or encourage them to do so, they will be breaking the law and is considered murder. The definition is first-degree murder, which is a homicide that is planned and deliberate. Doctors, on the other hand, are professionally trained to help you with your death, and therefore are legally allowed to do so. In Section 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom, it is guaranteed that the life, liberty, and personal security of all Canadians. It also demands that the government respect the basic principles of justice whenever it intrudes those rights. Bill C-14 is the bill that lays down assisted death laws. And basically what the bill is saying is that you cannot have a friend aid you in your death. And what this does is that it allows doctors to legally aid you instead. The government. So the first purpose of the government is to defend and protect the lives of the citizens. Both euthanasia and assisted suicide are part of that purpose. Canada is also now monitoring physician-assisted suicide to see how it impacts the law. They are currently working on finding out the exact numbers of assisted suicide. In this clip, they are going to be talking about how the government is working to track down the number of assisted suicide.
Now, Ottawa is looking at eventually tracking all of these numbers. Right now, they're still trying to come up with an interim process, and after that, they want to put a permanent system in place. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
My summary. Physician-assisted death will always be argued, and both opinions will always be outspoken. From watching the slideshow, I hope that you can understand that assisted suicide does not make doctors killers, but rather doctors who are aiding people with their illness.